I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast. Hey, Book Bound Besties! Welcome to episode 3. Today we're going to be talking about Fourth Wing chapters 7, 8, and 9. Mm-hmm. And before we get into it, let's catch up a little bit because we haven't seen each other in like 2 weeks.
I know. We had pre-recorded the previous episodes because it was the holidays and stuff, and Myriam was going on vacation. Yeah. So how was that?
It was great. I'm really, really lucky. My dad takes me, my sister, my brother, and our significant others on a family vacation every year right after Christmas. Mm-hmm. And it's such a special time for us to just spend together, uninterrupted, quality family time. And I am a sucker for a beach vacation. I love to just plop myself on the beach with a cocktail in one hand and my Kobo in the other hand, and nobody talks to me, and just spend the time soaking in the sun, reading, relaxing. I love it.
And how many books did you read?
So I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Mm-hmm. This is my third Emily Henry book. I think she's got 4.
Yeah.
Loved. Mm-hmm. Actually, I read that one towards the end of my trip, and I cried on the plane ride home.
I think I've seen like a few like TikToks of people being like, this was one of my favorite books of the year kind of things. So.
Yeah, she writes beautiful characters, and the banter in this one was top notch. And yeah, I loved her books. So I read that one. I read From Blood and Ash, which is apparently, it's marketed as for people who love SJM, and I loved it as well. The beginning part, I was kind of intrigued, and it's a very long series with a companion series as well. So I think that the world building required a lot of time. So I was interested, but I wasn't I was hooked, but I wasn't really, I don't know. But it hit a point where I was just like, okay, I'm into this.
Yeah.
I read The Hollow by Agatha Christie, and I hate to say this, but I didn't love it.
I know. I read Agatha Christie this year too. I read The Halloween Party because the new movie was based on it. Mm-hmm. And it's a short book, and it was so repetitive. So it made me I had so much trouble focusing on it. And it's 250 pages. I should be able to read this.
That's the thing. I've been working my way through the Agatha Christie bibliography, so I'm about halfway through, and I don't know if maybe she hit a slump or I don't really know what it was, but I found it really tough to get through, and I usually love Agatha Christie, totally. So it was kind of weird. I read I read The Air Affair, which is the sequel to The Royal We, which is loosely based off of Will and Kate, which I liked. But again, I was just like, I don't know, maybe it just was too long. I'm not too sure, but it was good. What else did I read? I feel like I read another. Where's my TikTok? Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay, and then the last book that I read was Without Merit by Colleen Hoover.
Oh, right.
And this one was interesting. I think Colleen Hoover, I know some people hate on her.
I've never read a Colleen Hoover, but I know she's a best-selling author. All her books are best-selling books, but I don't know. I never made the jump.
I like her. Mm-hmm. I liked It Ends With Us. A lot of people like to be snobby about it. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it. I've read a couple of her other books last year, and Without Merit was actually really interesting. It's about a really dysfunctional family. The main character's name is Merritt.
Okay.
And there was it was actually really interesting. I was not expecting this from this book. There was a little bit about the Syrian civil war. Oh. And as a I'm a Middle Eastern person, and so having that be, and the Arab Spring be a part of a very mainstream book, I was kind of oh, this came out of nowhere, but I'm all for it. The fact that the male love interest is Syrian, and so he talks a little bit about what happened in Syria during the Arab Spring, how Syria unfortunately was unable to overthrow their dictator the way Egypt was, and Libya was, and other countries in the Middle East. And there's a little bit of Arabic in there. Anyway, it was just kind of different, and I wasn't.
Were you able to read it?
What?
The Arabic.
Oh, well, I mean, it's written in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like written in.
No. It was written in English. Okay. But yeah, anyway, I just thought it was
very cool.
Very cool. Very different. Anyway, so I think that's 5. I read 5.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, in 10 days. Not bad.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I know you read fast.
Well, Justin read 1 book.
Well, that's amazing. Good for him.
I really wanted him to finish his book earlier in the trips because he told me that as soon as he finished his book, he would read Fourth Wing. Yeah.
He's going to read Fourth Wing?
He says. So he says. But he's been saying he's going to read Fourth Wing for like months. Like since Iron Flame came out, he said he was going to read Fourth Wing.
Okay, well, I'm going to hold it to him now.
Yeah, you have to start. Yeah, exactly. You have to get on his case.
So funny. So Scott actually listened to, or has been listening to our podcast, and he's like super invested, and he's impatient about like the next episode being put out, which I love, but he hasn't read the book. So
what's he doing?
I don't know. He's reading other books though, so like whatever. I'm not going to complain. He's reading.
Yeah, fair enough. How was your holiday?
It was good. I mean, I stayed in Montreal, so it was a winter. We toggle between our Christmases. So Scott has family in the States, so this year was a Canadian Christmas, but it was fun. We just like did family things. We went up to a cottage and enjoyed wintry, very different landscapes.
That's not my idea of fun. I am very much a warm weather person.
Well, sitting by a fire and reading,
it's a
nice.
vibe.
It's nice.
Yeah. Actually, when you put the poll up on our Instagram, your view won.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it did.
I wasn't able to look at the results, but
really?
That's just because I'm stupid.
Don't say that.
But I only read 2 books. But I read Divine Rivals.
Yes.
Which I say read, but I listened to an audiobook, which was my first audiobook.
How did you find it?
I enjoyed it. It took me a minute to like allow my brain to focus on it properly. I definitely listen better like driving for some reason because I'm used to listening, I guess, to radio. But I listened to Divine Rivals, which was fantastic and heartbreaking. And I was very upset at the end. So I have not started the next one, but I have trouble, like, when I'm taking, like, emotional blows, like, I need time. Like, I cannot just jump into the next thing. I'm
the opposite. I need to consume.
Yeah, so I needed time. And then I finished A Court of Wings and Ruin.
Yep.
And talking about emotional blows.
Elyse actually sent me last night a picture of herself with tears, and I was just like, girl, I sobbed that hard when I finished it the second time.
Yeah, yeah.
It gets you every time.
The last 200 pages, I want to say.
Classic SJM.
Just has like twists and turns and discoveries and happiness and sadness and touching moments and just emotional turmoil. And like, I would be reading in bed and like, gasping audibly, and like Scott just turns to me, he's like, what? And I'm like, no, it's just such a plot twist. Like, I didn't know it because he hasn't read the series and doesn't know much about it. But yeah, so he hasn't read it, so he didn't know much about it, but he's just been very supportive through my whole reading. And then I actually finished it last night. So I was down to the last like 100 pages, and I was like, love, like, I need to read this. And he was like, okay, dinner's ready. Do you want to read through dinner? Like, he was like super supportive about it. But I was like crying. Like, like full on crying.
Just wait till you start Throne of Glass. Because I cried through the last 250 pages of Kingdom of Ash.
Yeah.
I made it to page 750, and I was like, I am a tough broad. Yeah. I made it. Everyone says this book destroys you emotionally, I survived.
I know.
And then I hit page, I don't know, 750 or something, and
yeah, no, a friend of mine actually said the same thing, like, just wait until you read Throne of Glass. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've heard.
I remember I read this particular scene. I don't know, like, anyway, I read this particular scene right after I finished work, before I went to the gym, and I show up at the gym with like red puffy eyes, and then I did my workout, and I went to dinner at my dad's, and I had the book with me, and and I'm sitting at the kitchen table before dinner, and I'm sobbing, and my brother's looking at me funny, my dad's like so used to this that Justin's embarrassed, he's like, I don't know her, and then they're like, okay, we're having dinner now, so I'm still crying, and I'm eating dinner with tears still like, like I'm not actively crying, but you're still crying.
Yeah, I used to have
So for dinner, and then we come home, and I had like 100 pages left, and I was like, I'm not going. I cannot start another day on this emotional kind of.
I was like, it's finished. I'm finishing it now. Yeah, for sure. It was it was fantastic. I think I would say overall in the series, it's still a great book. It's probably the hardest read because there's so much like on the war and stuff, which I guess is a mini spoiler, but it's less mist and fury.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And it was still interesting. It was still super interesting and I still liked it, but I could see people who are like super not into that.
Yes.
Be less into the book.
Yes. Yeah. The thing is, this series, ACOTAR, and Throne of Glass and Crescent City form a multiverse.
Yeah.
So you're getting hints to the multiverse in Wings and Ruin. There's not that much. It really starts in Frost and Starlight, which you're about to begin.
Anyway, it was just an observation. But that being said, I find all 3 books so far have been very distinct stories, very like, though it's all the same characters, same world, like they're all very different journeys, which has been interesting and refreshing. So.
Yeah, you don't feel like it's just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited to continue that journey.
I can't wait to continue to witness you experiencing these books. It's so much fun for me to witness all of my friends fall in love with these books and these characters that I loved so much, and to witness them experience all these emotions is kind of like a chance for me to witness them or experience them once again.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice feeling. And it's what I'm hoping we're going to be able to do through Book Bound Besties is try to get other people to fall in love with the books that we're still in love with and kind of feel like they're in the room chatting with us.
Yeah, exactly. That's really sweet. I love that. So anyway, we'll put that journey on hold and get back to the one that matters, Fourth Wing, and dive into episode 3.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I am so excited to get into these episodes. Can I say these 3 chapters have been the best chapters we've read so far?
It's only going to get better.
I know. I'm so excited. Like, the story's wrapping up. Things are just getting good and hot and amazing. All right, let's get into it. So chapter 7. Start with the synopsis. Violet has been hard at work prepping for the challenges ahead. On an evening where she's collecting supplies, she overhears a discussion by an illegal gathering of the Marked Ones. Though they seem to be just helping one another, it is clear they have it out for Violet. When she finally thinks she's alone, she comes out of hiding, only to be faced with Xaden. After their exchange, he seems in no rush to kill her after all. Maybe there is more to him than meets the eye.
Ooh. You're very good at these. I honestly look forward to your chapter synopses every single week.
Thank you.
I think it's a nice little talent of yours that Thanks. I don't know. I think our listeners are gonna enjoy your interpretation of what happened in the chapter.
So. I have fun writing them. I actually forgot to write one once and I was like, oh my God. And it like dropped everything. And my husband just looked at me like, what's wrong? I was like, I forgot the synopsis. It was very dramatic. But here we are.
Let's get into our pre-chapter blurbs. And this chapter, for chapter 7, we actually have 2 pre-chapter blurbs. So we have addendum 5.2 of the Biscayeth War College Code of Conduct, which says, in the best interest of preserving peace within Navarre, no more than 3 cadets carrying rebellion relics may be assigned to any squad of any quadrant. And then we have addendum 5.3, which is, in addition to last year's changes, marked ones assembling in groups of 3 or more will now be considered an act of seditious conspiracy and is hereby a capital offense. This is very dramatic.
It is. And my first thought, I was like, what happened? Like, why did they have to write this addendum?
Again,
like,
not even a thought that crossed my mind. Not even a thought. Honestly, the only thing that really, truly crossed my mind reading this once more was, what the heck is the Biscayeth War College Code of Conduct? We know the Codex, the Writer's Codex, and as we also know from what we've read so far, the marked ones have to be writers.
Right.
They're all in the Riders
Right.
Widers. We're gonna start. We're gonna have a blooper reel of all the time that
we say widers
or squibes.
We're just gonna develop like speech impediments, I guess.
Probably. Oh man. So that kind of jumped out at me because we've never heard of the code of conduct. I don't understand the necessity for the code of conduct. For the code of conduct. Yeah. And also, if we go to addendum 5.2, where they say any squad of any quadrant, again, they're all riders. So what other quadrant can they be in? It's true. I don't really get it.
It didn't even cross my mind, but
me neither until this very moment.
Point.
And so Rebecca Yarrow says some questions to answer us. Okay, so let's jump in. Last week, we ended with Violet being super confident that she knew how she was going to survive. And this chapter opens with Violet traipsing through shrubs and trees and tall grass. And tell me if this is not giving Hunger Games vibes.
It totally is. I didn't make that connection, but yes, absolutely. The berries, the poison berries.
The poison berries. This is 100% Hunger Games.
It is. I love it. As she is hunting, or I guess not
foraging.
Really hunting, foraging, that is the word, she's approached by two hooded figures, or she sees two hooded figures.
Yeah, and even before this, she is kind of mentioning the tinges of pain that she's feeling from her shoulder not being healed yet, and I was so impressed, but also not surprised given what we know about her so far, that she is in this pain. And I guess, if you're a person with a chronic illness, you're used to a certain degree of pain somewhat constantly. But not only is she being really physical climbing these trees, but she's also, as we learn, still training with Rhiannon.
Yeah.
So she's really pushing herself.
Yeah. That's one thing I love about Violet is she has this chronic pain and she's lived with it, but she's also learned to live with it and learn to work around it.
Yeah.
And that's something I find so admirable of her. We know she's small, we know she's frail. It's said a lot in the books, but she doesn't look at that as as something that's going to stop her. She's like, okay, this happens. How do I work around it? And she's just pushes through and finds solutions. And I find that so cool about her.
Absolutely. She has this can-do attitude. She doesn't want to be there necessarily.
No, exactly.
She knows she's got to be there. She has no other choice, so she's making the best of it.
Yeah. She's just we're going to do this. This is my situation. I'm going to push through. I want to push through.
I have no choice
and
to
I'm
push
going
through.
to figure it out. And which is fantastic. Because if I make comparisons to other characters, ACOTAR
Spoiler.
Mini spoiler. You could skip ahead. But Feyre is the biggest thing, and it frustrated me, is her thing is she was constantly complaining I'm a human, I'm a small weak human, I'm poor human, and I can't read. I'm just an illiterate dumb human. And she kept weighing on that, and I was okay, you don't know how to read. Figure it out.
Ask for help.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Stop
Tamlin
dwelling.
offered to teach her how to read. I mean, okay, fine. Maybe he was a bit sassy about it,
but he
mocking.
Did offer.
He did.
He did, and she could have found a workaround and refused to, and instead just dwelled on it. And I was
Absolutely.
girl, I'm over it.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see Violet being let's find a workaround.
Yeah.
This is my life. I'm gonna figure it out. And I just have a lot of respect for her.
I love her as a character, honestly.
Yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt what you were saying before about how Violet spies two hooded figures approaching the tree that she is climbed in.
Yeah.
She is sat in. And dun dun dun, it is Xaden. Obviously it's Xaden.
And
Xaden, he appears everywhere. Violet turns around, hi Xaden.
Yeah. And Imogene. So my stomach dropped when I read that.
Yeah.
I was just very exciting. She's stuck in a tree.
Yep.
She sees them approach, and her first thought is, oh my God, are they lovers?
Well, I mean, okay. We both have to think back a very long time.
Yeah.
But when you first are starting to like someone, even if you haven't fully admitted that you like the person, or nothing has really
you notice.
You notice every
everything.
single... Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There was a girl... So I met my husband, first day of university in math class, and I always sat in front of him and always made sure, ladies, this is a trick if you're slightly psychotic, but it worked, is I would sit right in front of him. I'd always wear a nicely cut top. And I would always have my hair washed fresh that day. Like, and always a little bit damp. Like September, you can get away with having hair that's slightly damp. It doesn't need to be, you know, dry because it's cold outside or whatever. So my hair was always slightly damp, so it still smelled of the shampoo. And I would like, so I'm sitting in front of him, and I would just like sometimes like toss my hair so that he would get, you know, a whiff of this nice smelling shampoo. And, you know, because they say, again, like, I didn't think about it this. I mean, I just thought, oh, like, he'll think I smell nice and, like, it'll catch his attention or whatever. But, like, now, with my wisdom, I know that smells are really tightly associated with your memory.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe.
He'll remember me.
Yeah. Anyway, but all this to say, there was a girl that he knew from high school. I didn't know that he knew her from high school. Okay. But she would sit, there would be, like, him, someone in between them, and then this girl. And this is the way I don't know, we always, like, sat in the same spots in this math class. And he would talk to her because obviously he knew her, and I would rate. Like, I think, like, I only knew his name or something. Like, you know, he was the guy who sat behind me in math class who would always turn bright red whenever the teacher would teach, like, a new concept because he was so stressed about it being difficult or whatever. And, like, I had no reason.
Yeah.
Violet has spoken to Zayden more than I spoke to Justin at the time. And I was so jealous of this girl.
For sure.
So.
I mean, I get it, though, because, like, even when I first started talking to my now husband, like, I met him at a hockey arena. Yes, I know, very Canadian. And I worked at the front desk. And this team, this team of boys, which Justin was on the team.
Yep.
That's how me and Myriam met, through our husbands. But the parade of girls that came to watch this team, like every week, there was
nearly all now married into the friend group.
I know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a revolving door of girls, but there was so many of them.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who was with who. I couldn't draw those conclusions because, like, the team would walk in and then there would be a parade of girls and they would go upstairs and watch the boys play. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know who has a girlfriend and who doesn't. Like, it was just, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I understand. Because, like, you do, like, your
mind kind of runs away with you.
Yeah.
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 Anyway. So we feel you, Violet.
Anyway, all that to say.
So Violet, what we realize as more and more people start to approach this famous tree is that Violet is unexpectedly caught witnessing a meeting of the marked ones. Mm-hmm. And as we know from our pre-chapter blurb, this is highly illegal.
Yeah. So we're listening in to this conversation, and as all these kids are talking, young adults are talking, I was just like, I noticed, like, maybe a page before Violet, but I was like, oh my God, they're just there to help each other.
I know, it's so sweet.
It's so sweet. I love it so much.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, me too. I mean, as you know, our listeners will now know and probably have established, you are a much more intuitive reader than I am. And so for me, the whole time, I was just so nervous. I wasn't sure what to expect, like, what's going on? Why are they all gathered? And then when I found out that big scary Zayden was actually just helping them, I was just like, I was the TikTok meme that was like, bang, 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 take my money, take my money. I was just like, that's it.
Yeah.
Zayden.
Bought in.
Yeah. I want you. Your big little heart.
I know. I love it. And, like, I know the marked ones are supposed to be, like, the enemy and they're not well liked at the school, but, like, but you see this and I'm like, how can I not root for them? Like, I love an underdog, first of all, so I'm already, like, immediately drawn to that. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, they're just trying to get by a situation that they were forced into.
Absolutely.
Like, which I still think wrongfully so. So it's just like, anyway, it warmed my heart.
So I mean, me too. I thought that it was so sweet, especially yes, I love an underdog story, but what I actually love so much, it makes me so weepy when I see this on the news or on Instagram or whatever, is the paying it forward. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when you see the little stories, anyway, love that.
Well, like the journal we talked about last week, right?
Exactly, so like the journal last
Brennan
week.
did it for
Mira.
So
Mira is doing it for Violet. Yeah. So for me, I'm reading this and I'm saying, wow, okay, I can only imagine what a hard time Xaden, Garrick, Imogen is a second year. So, okay, let's just say Xaden and Garrick, because we know them so far. They must have had a terrible time their first year at Bisgayeth, because obviously they are now forced into this like death camp of a school, and you know they have to toe the party line where, you know, obviously they had grown up with a completely different worldview. So there's, first of all, that aspect on a personal level that's difficult for them, but then also they are antagonized constantly, I'm sure, by everyone else. So the fact that these two, you know, from what we know, there's, you know, others for sure, but let's just use them as an example. The fact that they are like, okay, we had such a hard time. We are going to make sure that other people in the same position as us have an easier time.
Yeah.
Love that.
I know. It's so sweet. I love it.
We're going to need a thesaurus, because all we say is it's so sweet.
I know.
I don't even want another word. It's so sweet.
It is. And then all the while this is happening though, Violet is like commenting on Xaden, how she can't see his face, the sound of his voice, just everything, like her focus is solely on him.
Yeah.
And I love every minute of it.
Oh, yeah. This girl has it so bad. So, okay, on one side, or to begin with, we have this, we're all like hard eyes over Xaden helping out these, you know, new students, whatever. And then he goes from like sweet, caring, you know, helping the underdog to being a hardo with this poor kid who, you know, had the gall to be vulnerable about his fears, you know, being in this, like I said before, death camp of a school. Like, this poor kid had the nerve to express his feelings, and Xaden's like, too bad.
Yeah, like super tough love, like extreme tough love.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it for him as well. He's expending effort and energy helping out these first years, and he's not going to waste time on someone who doesn't have that survivalist mentality.
For sure.
I get it. But at the same time, this poor kid, like,
Yeah,
give him,
I know. Give him a hug.
Yeah, give him a break. Be like, I get it. I was you once, but grow up. I don't know, something.
And then they move into, one of them says, when do we kill Violet? And Xaden just comes in and, like, protects her without, like, indirectly protects her, but he's like, she is mine.
She's mine. She's mine.
I will do what I see fit in the time I see fit. He's like, don't touch her. Like, he's super protective without, like, making it too obvious. But I'm like, okay, Xaden, I see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later on, he actually defends her further by bringing up Brennan. So, that's weird.
Which I don't even remember.
Oh, you don't?
But, yeah.
Yeah, he said something about that she is, well, it's after Garrick says, you know, something that I know you loved. So he, after like Garrick says his little spiel, Xaden goes, well, she was Brennan Sorrengail's sister, so she has just as much of a reason to hate us that we do to hate her.
Right.
And so I was just like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
I'm getting whiplash, Xaden. Like, what?
Okay.
What's your position? Like,
do
you, she's mine, like, I'm going to take care of her in, like, the, you know, mafia take care way? Or, you know, is he defending her and saying, well, no, like, she actually is just as miserable here as we are?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then Garrick says my favorite line.
Yeah.
Because, okay, before I get into it, I thought I was overreacting in chapter 1 when I read about the marked kids and I was, like, losing my mind. But I wasn't, because it's a theme throughout. So
Absolutely.
I had the right to call it out.
Also, you are allowed your feelings.
But yeah, Garrick says, punishing children for the sins of their parents is the Navarian way, not the Tyrish. And I just loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, that is right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's giving when they go low, we go high.
Exactly. And it's like, it's just so level-headed.
And emotionally mature.
Yeah. Like maybe too emotionally mature for a 20-year-old.
I mean, I'm almost 30, and I don't think I possess that level of emotional maturity.
I know. But then, like, okay, so there is the aspect of, like, kids who have gone through a lot, like, tend to grow up faster. Like, who have gone through a lot of trauma, whatever, like, or put into situations where they have to grow up, they do grow up. So, like, okay, a 23-year-old being that mature, like, maybe. But then part of me is like, yeah, but also this is, like, a theme in new adult writing that, like, these women who are, like, middle-aged women write 20-year-olds way mature beyond their age.
Yeah. But I don't even want to harp on this too much because Rebecca Yarros does such a great job writing 20-something-year-olds. Like, generally, I know that a lot of other authors sometimes get some flack over either banter or kind of relationship. I don't know. You know, like she does everything else so well that I can hand her making a 20-something-year-old too emotionally mature. Like, you know what? Like, I will take it. I'll take it.
And just the other week we were talking about how great she was writing like a first love from a 20-year-old's perspective.
Yeah.
So it's not to harp on that at all.
Yeah.
But it was just like a bit that balance. It was like, oh, that's really mature. But it's also a trend in this type of book. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I loved it and I ate it right up. So
yeah. So Xaden dismisses the group.
Yeah.
And Violet sits there and she counts to 500. I have never tried to count to 500. I don't have any desire to try to count to 500, but I can only assume that it is not the easiest thing to do.
I would have lost my way somewhere in there. I'd be like, what number was I at again?
Yeah. Yeah. Or I would have just given up. I'd be like, okay, this is too long. I'm just going to...
Just jump down.
Yeah.
Or climb down.
Risk it for the biscuit and go.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she finally does go down that tree, she is grabbed by none other than Xaden.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Is there something wrong with me? I mean, whatever. So, I don't know what is wrong with me, but the fact that he pins her down and then has a knife to her throat, I was like, whew.
Oh, yeah.
Xaden.
It's a knife to the throat is so hot.
In fiction.
In a book.
In a book. Yeah, exactly.
It's so hot. No, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Yep.
I couldn't get enough.
From here on out, the rest of the chapter, it's just everything I needed.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I know. We get an introduction to little Xaden Violet banter, and I am here.
Yeah. The banter is so good. Just everything, the fight, everything. I didn't even take specific notes because I was so wrapped into like
I know. I had such a hard time taking notes. At this point, I just got lost.
I was just like giggling at my book.
Yeah, same. Stupid smile on my face. But we did learn something super important right about now in the chapter, and that is that Xaden is a shadow wielder.
Yeah. And
that this is a very rare signet power.
Right.
What did you think about that?
Well, so I don't really get what it is. Like, I don't get, like, to me, a shadow in life, it's a non-tangible thing. It's just a lack of light, right?
Yes.
So, like, I have trouble actually, what does it mean? What does he do? What do the shadows do? I don't understand the power.
This is okay, fair. So, I guess you can call it a trope of romantasy.
Okay.
At least the romantasy that I've been reading. There's always a shadow daddy. There's always
shadow daddy?
Yeah, there's always a shadow wielder. So, I mean, we've got Azriel in ACOTAR, we've got Rune in Crescent City, and we've got Dorian in Throne of Glass. So I'm kind of familiar. I'm kind of familiar with shadow wielders. But if you think about, maybe a more commonly known reference is Peter Pan.
Right.
Peter Pan's shadow was sentient.
Yeah.
So,
it ran around and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So you can kind of think about it like that.
Yeah, I guess because like I'm just curious to see like what that power actually is. Like what does manipulating shadows do? Like what can you do with it? Because I am reading ACOTAR, but I'm only on the third book. So like Az hasn't shown me what he could do yet.
Right.
So I know that he's a shadow.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, we haven't gotten his book yet, so we don't know
much.
Okay. There was a bonus chapter to Akasif, which is in his perspective.
Oh, okay.
So we get a tiny little glimpse into...
So it's coming.
It's coming. But, so there's a lot of speculation. Okay, sorry for this tangent, but whatever. SJM Universe Spoiler-ish conversation. There's speculation on who the next ACOTAR book is going to be following. So some people say it's Elaine. Everyone really wants an Azriel book.
Yeah.
Maybe their book is going to be combined. We don't know. There's a lot of people who like them together.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that, where I'm at. Anyway, we'll see. All that to say, as you can tell, I am very new to this romantasy genre.
It's okay, so I'm bringing you to the dark side.
I am learning as I go, and I'm trying to fire through the books, but there is so much content out there and lots to catch up on.
There's no reason to rush.
No, I know. I'm enjoying it. It's great.
I love how Xaden is helping her. He's giving her advice.
Yes.
You know, particularly with the daggers.
Yeah.
And this is when you get the sense that Xaden is actually starting to really see Violet for who she is. And that he notices that there's a spark of something in her, that little fight in her.
Yeah.
And he gives us this line that's a lot of Fourth Wing fans love, and it's when he says, "You look all frail and breakable, but you're really a violent little thing, aren't you?"
Oh, yes.
And yeah, you just, despite this like very high risk situation, Violet has just witnessed a very illegal activity, and she's with Xaden, who she knows wants to kill her, but she's kind of attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in all of this, she's still bringing up how beautiful he is.
Yeah.
She can't help herself,
Yeah.
and the end of this chapter just had me just cheesing. I had this stupid smile on my face. I could not help myself. I just, this is my third time through chapter 7, and, I still had the same reaction. I just loved it.
Yeah. The way they call out at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cute.
I love them. Okay, so awards.
Okay, awards. First, romance. So there wasn't like really romance, so I kind of substituted it for like love/humanity. And again, I'm going to just reread the same quote. Her mom is responsible for the capture of nearly all of our parents, not her daughter. Punishing children for the sins of their parents is the Navarian way, not the Tyrish. And it's just such a like, what I think should be basic humanity, but it's something we get wrong so much in life. And I just love that he is standing for something that I think is beautiful and, in a way, love.
Yeah.
So,
We love our Garrick.
choose love.
So my most romantic line is just because it reminds me of a rom-com, like the little banter. I just loved it so much. And it's the last line of the last little chunk of the chapter, like we were saying before. And it's when Xaden goes, "Now get back to bed before your wing leader." Now get back to bed before your wing leader realizes you're out after curfew. And she goes, "What? You're my wing leader."
It was really cute.
I could just imagine her sitting there like kind of turned on, kind of frustrated, gawking at his disappearing, self.
Yeah.
He's just walking away, and I could just imagine a self-satisfied little grin on his face as he's walking away.
Yeah.
And
it's super cute.
it's a scene that I could picture so clearly in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It was adorable. I loved it. Like the way she calls out at the end was very, just
Very rom-com.
very rom-com.
Loved it.
Yeah. So next, funny. So it's just a line that kind of made me giggle. After Violet throws the daggers at Xaden, he's like, "You should show that little trick to Jack Barlow." So it's just the banter is great. And also I want her so badly to stab Jack Barlow. So it made me laugh.
Yeah, my funniest line was when she goes, "If he's going to kill me, I'm not going down as some simpering little beggar. Let me guess, you could smell my perfume. Isn't that what always gives the heroine away in books?" And it's just like, she's just so irreverent.
Yeah, I love it.
And I just,
And
I
it's
love
a
that.
cute little like nod to readers too.
Yeah.
Now spicy.
Ooh.
He reaches under my cloak. Is that what you wrote? Oh my god. Okay. He reaches under my cloak and slides one blade into the sheath at my thigh.
Okay, no, so I kept going.
Okay.
Then pulls back the side of my cloak and pauses. His gaze locks onto the length of my braid where it falls over my shoulder, and I could swear he stops breathing for a heartbeat before he slides the remaining dagger into one of the sheaths at my ribs.
Whew.
Yeah. For me, yes, okay, when he like slides the sheath at her thigh, yes, obviously that is very, very spicy. But when he stops breathing, like he's so aroused that he has to, like
But he needs to take a beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I was like,
Yeah. It's
oh.
hot. It is. I feel like he's such an intense like starer.
Yeah.
That when
He's tall, dark, and handsome.
I know. And I could just picture like as he's doing it, he's like staring into her soul. And I'm just like getting so like, whew. Anyway. Yep. We love it.
We love it.
We love it.
All right. Let's get into chapter 8.
Okay. So we're going to read the synopsis for chapter 8. The chapter begins with Dane and Violet's stroll to the kitchens, which seems to have become their daily routine. They banter. Dane tries to convince her to leave, all while thoughts of Xaden keep entering her head. We attend a brief on dragons just before finally entering the challenges. Violet's work with poisons proved to be useful over the next few weeks, but then a shocking twist of events when Xaden approaches the mat to face her.
I am just so, I don't know, I feel like I'm just so, I become dumb. When
Xaden's involved?
Yeah, I just love this book so much. Okay,
I know.
So pre-chapter blurb is from the effective, the pre-chapter blurb is from the Effective Uses of Wild and Cultivated Herbs by Captain Lawrence Medina, and it says, there is an art to poison not often discussed, and that is timing. Only a master can properly dose and administer for effective onset. One must take into account the mass of the individual as well as the method of delivery. So we obviously know that this is, we're going to be bringing in the poisons at one point because we saw Violet forage for them. And we know she had the Book of Poisons because that's one of the few books that Mira let her bring into the Writer's Quadrant. So, we're not surprised. And we've deduced that a lot of these pre-chapter blurbs have to do with the chapter that we're about to read anyway. So I guess now we're finally going to be putting these poisons to the test.
So actually, in reading this specific one, I had a new thought about these pre-chapter blurbs. I'm like, are all of these from books that Violet has read?
Oh.
Because this specific passage, she would have had to have read up on it to know how to administer poisons. And it comes up in the chapter about timing and stuff. So I was just like, oh, she's so well read. She's spent so much time training to be a scribe. And I was just like, oh, maybe it is from stuff she's read. Anyway,
yeah, maybe.
Just a thought.
Yeah. It's never really specified, so I think it kind of is up to our not our discretion, but our interpretation.
Anyway, so the chapter begins in the women's hall, and Violet's getting ready. And I mean, we don't spend a lot of time here, but she does talk about how people are getting it on in the hall.
Yeah.
Which, we already know this quadrant is very,
sex positive.
Sex positive. We're living short lives. We need to do it when we want to, when the feeling comes. But it also just, made me laugh because it feels very, typical, college dorm experience.
Yeah.
Which is something that you and I never experienced. Because, in Canada, or in Montreal anyway, dorm life isn't really that big of a thing compared to in the United States.
Yeah. It's not as much of a thing here in Montreal to go away for university because we have pretty good schools here.
Locally.
Yeah. And I mean, I grew up 15 minutes from downtown. My university was downtown. I grew up about 15 minutes from downtown. So it really didn't make sense for me to move out. Also, I have immigrant parents and they're just why would we pay for you to, or why would you pay to live on your own at 18, 19 when we live 15 minutes away? This makes no sense.
Yeah, and I lived 15 minutes from my school. So it just didn't make sense to move out. But so my view of college dorm life is purely from movies. I don't know if this is the real thing, but that's what it gave me.
Yeah.
That's the vibe it gave me. So
yeah.
Yeah. People can let us know if that is an accurate portrayal of college dorm life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're always 7 years out, 8 years out, let us know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to tell Justin, I'm going to go back to university and I'm going to go stay in the dorms. Bye.
No thanks.
Okay, so here I don't understand Violet's reaction to Dane. Why is she still smiling when thinking about him? Last we heard, he was trying to get her into the scribe. I did that on purpose, and then I laughed at myself.
Call it the scribe quadrant from
here on out. He tried to get her back into the scribe quadrant. So it's listen, although I have to hand it to him, it's very chivalrous that he wakes up extra early to, have friend time with her when he's not her squad leader. Rereading it now, I have the ick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I have the ick.
Because he doesn't leave her alone for a second. He's following her every morning, which is I mean, I guess at this point she wants that. But yeah, I understand.
I get it. She's oh, I get to spend time with my friend. But he's oh, when I'm not your squad leader. Give me a break, dude. Stop taking yourself so seriously.
I know.
Just, be cool.
And she says, it's funny because, she is aware of his shortcomings sucks because she says, even in the moments where he's consumed with trying to save me from this place, like talking about him guiding, like walking with her and stuff. So like she's aware he keeps doing it, and she's already like in the back of her mind it's already a bit of an annoyance to her. Yeah, but she's still taking it.
I know, and like honestly, I again, on my reread, I could not cope with Dane when he flings himself in front of her when a door opens. Like, can you be any more dramatic? Yeah. Like, please, I dare you. Like, give me a break. Yeah. What did he think was going to come out of this door?
Yeah, I know. And it happens anyway. It happens every day.
And it's actually... I took note of this because it's so crazy how your perspective can shift when you're reading with a with a critical lens. Because when you're reading for pleasure, you're just gobbling up a book, or at least I am. I'm just like, no, I just want to finish this book. Yeah. And you miss so many red flags. But when Dane goes, "We have a curfew for a reason, cadet." Like, ew, Dane, please, just like be cool. Yeah. And
as if like he never did that. Like,
well, that's the thing. So, I wrote this down because then Dane asks about her sex life. And again, I'm like, the nerve on this guy. He didn't volunteer the Amber Mavis situation. So we can infer that he had been sleeping with her because he blushes when he refers to them being like good friends or whatever.
Yeah.
It's obvious he was putting the P in the V, as I like to call it. So like he doesn't volunteer this information about Amber Mavis, which was it was against the rules because Amber Mavis
is older.
Yeah, so he's so particular about certain rules, but like not particular with other.
Yeah,
you know, like it was just. I'm starting to see some little Dane hypocrisy, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I did love though that like he squirmed when she like brought up her sex life. Like he like was like, wait, what? Sex life? Huh? Yeah. Like I was just like, haha, yes, make him squirm.
Uncomfortable.
I loved it.
So another thing that I noticed is I found that it was really telling that Violet didn't feel like she could trust Dane with the fact that she knew, thanks to the Book of Brennan, who she was going to be sparring with, because we know the extent of Dane's like rule lovingness, like I just said. So it's kind of crazy because you can't. Even Violet, who knows him so well and who, you know, thinks they're best friends, she doesn't have faith in his ability to bend the rules for her, if that makes sense. But he could bend the rules, you know, when it comes to him getting some, so.
Of course. That's, all men would do that. So there you go.
Well, I guess. But all this to say, in this conversation, I really, again, now reading this with a critical lens, I really was starting to see the vast chasm between the way Xaden treats her and the way Dane treats her. And I think this will be a running theme.
For sure. But already in her like interior monologue, she's already comparing Dane to Xaden.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yep. You're figuring it out. You're figuring it out, girl.
I know.
And at least that made me happy. I'm like, oh, she's starting to see it.
Yeah.
So we're like almost at the 100-page mark. Like, let's go.
Get it together, Violet.
Yeah, exactly.
But then he goes and brings up Fitzgibbons again. You know what? You pointed it out. You said every single interaction they have, he brings up the scribe quadrant, and you're 100% right.
And it starts off the same way. It's always like cute little banter. Things are good, and then he brings it up and ruins the scene every time. Yeah. Like every single scene. Literally every scene has been this way.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, Dane.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Seriously. Boring.
Yeah. And I am lost in my notes. Just a second. So where are we at?
Or finish that thing I have that were the scene changes to Dragon 101.
Oh, okay, perfect. I think that was...
Did you say everything you wanted to say?
Oh, well, basically she confirms that at the end of the chapter, she's like, all right, let's get to poisoning people. So I'm like really excited at that point. I was like, okay, let's see where this brings us. Like, so yeah. And then we are in the classroom where we're going to learn about dragons.
I called it Dragon 101.
Dragon 101. Yes. I love it. So immediately it gave me Hogwarts vibes.
Because it's class?
Because it's a class, but it's like the way, like, so the teacher was like, so, what is the best way to approach a red
magical creatures?
Yeah. What is the best way to approach a red scorpion tail?
Like, it reminds me of, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm forgetting his name. Prisoner of Azkaban. that Harry had to bow to him, and then he bit
Buckbeak.
Buckbeak.
Yes,
thank you. Oh my gosh,
exactly.
that is so embarrassing, and I'm cutting that out.
Yes.
Yeah. So it reminded me of Buckbeak.
I know.
Yeah.
So right away I was like, oh my God, Hogwarts vibes, like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, obviously we both have read and love Harry Potter, so
Too many times.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like, oh yay, like I liked being in that environment again, and also like I love learning, so being in a classroom excites me, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's more world building, it's more context, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we've been building up to these dragons, so it's like finally nice to like actually learn a bit about them too.
For sure. So we learn in the scene that the professor that teaches what I call Dragon 101, Professor Kaori, is an illusionist. So this is a super cool signet, if you ask me. And, you know, again, we're getting more information on the different kinds of powers people can have in this world.
Yeah.
And now we learn about the different types of dragons. So right off the bat, we learn that, for example, red scorpion tails are the quickest at temper. For example. So it'll be interesting to see later on when different cadets bond with dragons, who bonds with what kind of dragon.
Yeah. Like
because now we're starting to get into their temperament and what they're known for and that kind of thing.
I'm curious to know, like, if the dragons are gonna bond with people more like-minded or bond with someone
like complement.
Because, like, if they're quick to temper, like, do they need a rider who's calm?
Interesting.
Like, you know,
how
do dragons think?
Yeah.
You know?
So we also learn that Professor Kaori knows how many of each type of dragon is willing to bond this year. So my question is, how does he know?
Well,
how does he know?
I know.
No one's going to know.
Because he says there's less dragons for threshing this year, right?
Yeah, so there's only 100 this year.
Yeah.
So that's nearly 40 less than last year and nearly 30 less than the year before.
Yeah.
So remember that in Battle Brief, couple chapters ago, we learned also that there's an increase in rider deaths.
Yes.
So maybe the dragons like know something.
Yeah.
There has to be
a reason.
I
know.
This information isn't given to us for no reason.
Yeah, I know. Right away I was like, I wrote like, why? Like, why is this? And the students do ask, but we don't get a clear answer. Like, we don't know.
And we also read later on down the page that the wards are failing more often. So maybe this is all connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something's a brew in this world.
Something's afoot.
Something's afoot. But going back to what you were saying, it was like, how does he know how many dragons want to thresh? Like, so he says like the dragons let them know.
Yeah.
But like, I would love to see how this goes down. Like, what?
You'll find out.
Okay.
You're going to find out.
Because, like, I'm picturing, like, a dragon, like, lineup being like, I want to sign up this year. Like,
that.
Like,
okay,
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, how do they communicate with dragons when, like,
the
technically the dragons
you're going to find out.
Anyway, from what I understood, is dragons only really communicate with the rider.
Well, that's what caca-faced Jack Barlow told us.
I was like, who? Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to come up with, like, a new insult for Jack Barlow. Every time we bring him up. Caca-faced.
He's just not it. Anyway, he's a great bully. He's well written for that.
Yeah, he really is. He's a good villain.
Him, so there you go.
Yeah, he makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was just trying to picture, like, how do they do this? Like, these giant dragons are like, yeah, I want to sign up this year. Hey. Anyway, I'm excited to find that out.
Okay, so the next person that asks a question is Aurelie. I don't know how to say, like...
Aurelie?
Aurelie?
Yeah. Aurelie? Like... That's how, I don't know.
I just think like Aurélie. Like that's how like
Aurélie, yeah.
Yeah. There's another in Crescent City, there's a character named Amelie, where that's how the audiobook reader.
Oh.
And I'm like, I've never heard that name said like that before.
Amelie.
I'm so used to Amélie. Like I know so many Amélies. And anyway, so Aurelie.
Yeah.
So Aurelie is a part of Violet's squad. She was in the sparring ring with Riddick last chapter, or not last chapter, last episode. Yes. And we have another representation. So I'm not sure if you caught on this. I didn't. I really have to give the shout out to a podcast I read a podcast I listened to. And I don't even remember which one mentioned this, but she says that she cannot sit still. So somebody kind of pointed out, this is a representation of someone with some sort of attention
Right.
deficit disorder.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of cool that I thought I would point it out.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
That's
There's
cool.
we will continue to see a lot of representation in this series, and I just thought that this was a really subtle way, again, of this is not the characters defining quality. It's just something that Violet observed.
Yeah. That's funny. I like read it, but it didn't.
Yeah, it
like,
wouldn't. But that's
anything.
exactly what's so great about having.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is representation done well.
Yeah, it's just part of life. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so after a bit of discussion on the wards, we get a massive nugget of information. Is it the same as you think?
Xaden's dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, how do you pronounce its name? Sigale.
It's like scale, but with a G. Sigale.
Oof. Okay, I'm going to butcher that a couple times throughout,
That's okay.
I think, until I commit it to memory, but I will do my best. Okay. So, yeah, we find out that Xaden's dragon, Sigale, was a previous rider of this dragon was a relative of Xaden's. So I was like, was it his father's?
We don't know.
We don't know. That was where my brain went. I don't even know if his father had a dragon. I'm just assuming that he did. But I was just like, whose dragon was it? I didn't know that they could bond again.
Well, dragons are long-lived. Like, we're long-lived. We're going to we find that out later on in the chapter. So, I mean, I guess it's natural to think, because I think they were talking about the black dragon, the only other black dragon that they know of in the Vale, who is not ready to bond this year. But that black dragon is 100 years old, or just about 100 years old, and that is considered middle-aged. So if you think about it, let's say they're middle-aged, so I guess their life expectancy is like 200.
Yeah.
Well, humans don't live that long.
No, I know. I guess I just never thought they would, like, rebond.
Well,
like, I thought they'd have a rider and, like, either die with the rider or that's it. Like, I never thought that they would go again.
Well, that's what we kind of learned later on in the chapter, which is that that particular black dragon lost a rider 5 years ago and has not been ready yet. So that's, you know, I guess maybe the way that maybe in a dragon's lifetime, they might have like 2 or 3 riders. Like, they won't permanently or consistently have a rider.
So basically right after we learn about Xaden's dragon, they do bring up the black dragon because Jack Barlow wants it or whatever.
Yeah. Now, to me, this is like ding, 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 like more sirens, alarm bells of Kaka Jack's total unhingedness. Yeah. Because he, like, wants the black dragon. Yeah.
But right away, I was like, oh my God, they're spending so much time on this black dragon. Is it foreshadowing? Is it going to be Violet's dragon? Because its strength is cunning. Yeah. And Violet is so smart. And I was like, oh my God, they'd make a perfect pair. But anyway, that's just me speculating.
Yeah, but Professor Hiyori tells the class, like I just mentioned, that this dragon has not agreed to bond.
I know, but, you know, I feel like dragons are going to change their mind after she presents herself because I think she's that badass.
Okay. I mean, we'll find out at some point in this book who she bonds with, if she bonds with the dragon.
I also wrote, I hope the black dragon eats Jack.
They don't eat humans.
Well, I want him to.
Okay. So we also learn a little bit more about signets. So we learn that signets are a result of the unique chemistry between a dragon and a rider. So we learn later on that this black dragon's last rider had a siphoning signet. But that doesn't mean that the next rider will have that same signet. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. And we can infer that since Xaden's signet is super impressive, he must have a very strong bond with his dragon.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is there like a list of signet powers out in the world? Like, has she made one?
She probably hasn't.
Or like someone's gathered it?
Yeah, someone's probably gathered it.
I want to, but maybe I'll wait.
Yeah, we're going to learn so many. Keep in mind, you know, we haven't even started the challenges yet. So
no, I know.
We're going to learn.
I want to know all the powers, possibilities.
I know. So we learn about all of these signets, and we learn about, you know, this black dragon's previous rider. Yeah. And that his last rider died because he basically like had a burnout.
Well, he tried to resurrect somebody.
Exactly. But in doing that, he kind of overconsumed his own power.
Exactly. And died from it.
Yeah.
And right away, though, I was like, oh my God, he tried to resurrect Brennan.
I know.
I was like, oh.
Well, the professor did, like,
I know.
Look
at her.
Yeah.
And right away, I was just like, oh my God, like overcome with emotion. but then also just makes me want to know, like, oh my God, who was this writer?
Yeah.
Who was Brennan to this writer?
Yeah.
Why did he try, knowing that resurrection, like, isn't possible? Like, why did he even try that? Like,
so a lot of people think they were lovers.
that's what was my thought too.
I was like, they're best friends.
No, I was like, they must have been his lover, because why else would you sacrifice yourself? Like, yes, a deep friendship, but that was like my first thought. I was like, oh my God,
Maybe
he was in
it's
love with
because I've been listening to an audiobook of another series that has a very, very, very strong best friendship
okay.
at its core.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of sacrificing happening for the friendship.
Yeah.
That I thought that they were best friends. But it's like you are in the majority thinking that they're lovers.
Because I just thought, like, this other writer who we know nothing about, like, just couldn't live without Brendan, so he didn't even care that he probably would die doing this. Like, I was just like, oh my God. Anyway, the whole thing, it's like 2 sentences, but the whole thing just,
the
like,
concept, the idea.
My heart.
I know.
So they conclude their class, and the teacher like, kind of talks to Violet afterwards, and we do find out it's Brendan and whatever, and he talks to her and compares her to her siblings, which is something she has been through her entire life, but he compliments her and he says, not all strength is physical. And I was just like, I love this man so much.
Me too. I mean, really, this is only the second person, you know, in this school who we have on side.
I know.
We have Professor DeVera from Battle Brief, and now we have Professor Kaori. And I just think that...
Well, the healers, too.
Right, but I'm saying... But they're not part of the Writers' Quadrant.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, within the Writers' Quadrant,
Yeah.
she has 2 people who believe in her.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it.
Warmed my heart.
Me too.
Okay, so the next scene, Violet is at the sparring gym, and I love the fact that Xaden has a look of sheer boredom. Like, this man could not be bothered, like, in the slightest.
Yeah.
And I just have a feeling it's because he's actually confident in Violet. Like, as we saw in the previous chapter when he realized, you know, everyone thinks you're frail, but you're really a violent little thing. Like, this guy has faith in her.
Yeah.
Love it. Love a guy who has faith in you.
Unlike other people.
That's what I said. As opposed to Dane, who informs her that her opponent is planning on killing her. Like, I'm sorry, Dane. How is this relevant? Like,
I know.
Okay, maybe it is relevant, but how is this helpful?
I know.
It's really not helpful. Ugh. Yeah, and then Violet notices that he's green in the face, and I'm like,
yes, her plan is working. Yeah. But before she even, like, fights or whatever, she finally does throw a dagger at Jack. Yep. And he runs away like a scared little baby.
Yep.
And I loved every minute of it.
Oh, yeah. Like, even when she gifts him the middle finger before that and then does that. And would you believe it? But Xaden friggin' Ryerson lifts an eyebrow with a hint of a smile on his lips. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's, like, proud of her, and it's really cute.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, he wants her to stand up for herself. Like, he knows she doesn't need protecting. I love that.
I know.
And then freaking Dane the Pain is like, don't provoke him. Don't encourage her. Like,
yeah.
Shut up. I can't cope.
Dane the Pain. And then, again, sorry, you mentioned last episode or 2 episodes ago that every time Xaden is looking at Violet, she, like, senses it and, like, has, like, goosebumps or whatever. And it literally said, prickle in my scalp. Like, she
you're never going to not
I know.
See it.
I'm just going to, like, see it all the time now. But, like, she felt him watching her. So, like, which is, like, I'm like, okay, is this because they are really, like, have this crazy bond already? Or is it just because, like, she's so aware of him, you know? Like,
I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know. So Violet and Orin finally hit the mat to spar, and she is so freaking smart. Like, not only has she clearly poisoned him, but she's also been observing his fighting style, so she knows how to egg him on.
Yeah.
And she wins.
I know.
She wins.
I know.
Which I thought was just, obvious. But.
Yeah. But I love the knife tradition. Like, I like
that they get to take
a dagger, because it just feels like, I got your dagger, and then, like, when you see someone, like, decked out in daggers, you're like, oh, damn, like, they're a really good fighter. Like, there's something about it. Like, I really like that tradition they have.
Yeah.
But then I was also like, okay, this is cool. It worked. But how long can she possibly keep this up? Like, how long is it going to be before someone notices that every single person
A very long
finds,
time, apparently.
Apparently. I mean, longer than I thought it would go. But it's just like, I was like, is it really possible to keep it up without someone noticing? Like,
Well, someone noticed.
well, I know, but it took a while.
But you know what? It's because everybody probably underestimated her to the point that they were just so shocked and happy that she survived that they didn't even question it, probably.
Yeah, but I feel like realistically, like the people who were beat by her would be like, oh, well, I wasn't feeling well that day.
Yeah, but that would be a sign of weakness. They can't. They would
maybe.
You would have to think that they just take it on the chin.
Maybe. Okay. Fine, we'll let it go.
Yeah. So next is a series of kind of off-screen updates of, you know, her other sparring matchups. So like you said, she's consistently winning. Yeah. And it allows for, I found it allowed for a subtle way to introduce different kinds of poisons and their effects, which I thought was really cool.
She mixes it up. At least she's like really clever about it, right? Like she always does different, she always uses different methods and with different side effects. So I thought that was really cool.
And it further highlighted just how clever she was because she did cover her tracks. I mean, Dane, who watches her like a hawk, didn't notice.
Yeah. Yeah, but
someone else did.
And then the chapter ends with Xaden taking her on because her contestant or her other opponent didn't show up because he was sick.
Yeah.
So Xaden decides to take this contestant's place on the mat.
And I had no thought. I was just like, oh my god.
I literally wrote, Yeah. It was so exciting. It's so good.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
We know it's going to be spicy.
Oh, I just wanted to jump in and read the next chapter. But first, we will present our awards.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So the first quote, the romance quote. I didn't even, I didn't even write a quote. It's just the fact that a writer sacrificed his life to try to save Brennan, knowing that it wasn't going to work. Like, just all of that. I was like, that is the most, even if they weren't actually romantically involved, like if it was just a friendship, that is love. Yeah. And that's it. That's love in its purest form.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is very beautiful. My most romantic line wasn't necessarily traditionally romantic, but it was actually when Professor Kiori says, Violet, I taught both your siblings. A signet like mine is too useful here in the classroom to let me deploy with a wing for too long. Brennan was a spectacular rider and a good man. Mira is shrewd and gifted in the seat when it comes to riding. But you are smarter than both of them. And she goes, I blink. It's not often I get compared to my brother and sister and somehow come out on top. Yeah. And then he goes, from what I've seen of you helping your friends study in Commons every night, it seems you might be more compassionate too. Don't forget that. And I was just like,
I know. And
Professor Kaori, I love you.
I know. He's so great. It's just,
I'm not really doing a great job with it being just one line. I'm even looking at my funniest and I'm just like, oh, well, this is like paragraphs.
Well, that's okay. So funny. Oh, okay. It made me giggle. Why, Dane Aetos?
Me too! We are so in sync.
Are you asking me about my sex life? No. I mean, is there a sex life to ask about? Like, so good.
I also like when she goes, since I got here, that's none of your business. Yeah. Before I got here, still none of your business. Like, yes, Violet. Yes.
I know. The sass. So good.
I also actually, I guess sometimes what I do is I write down the lines that I like and then I pick my favorite out of what's left, but I guess I forgot to do that. So here I also said, do most men forget when a woman holds a knife to their balls? I just thought that was kind of funny. Sorry. Then I found it. I have another one. And it's when Rhiannon wins her spar and she goes, looks like this is mine now. Enjoy your nap, and pats him on the head.
I love Rhiannon. I want to see more of Rhiannon. And then our final award, the Spice Award. So there wasn't really that I was able to detect anything spicy. So I kind of took one from your book and went with the sassy approach.
Okay. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if we have any gentlemen listening, let's see if we have the same one.
Oh, okay. I
already know.
Yeah. I unsheath both daggers from my ribs and flick them in his direction in one smooth moment. They land right where I intended, one nearly nicking his ear and the other an inch beneath his balls.
Yeah, me too.
It just was such a good moment of like, fuck you, Jack Barlow.
Yeah, and I just like when it goes, fear widens his eyes. I shamelessly grin and wiggle my fingers in a wave. Like,
yeah.
Yes, Violet,
I know. It's just everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I still want him to pay more, but
Oh,
it's okay.
yeah.
We'll get to it.
No, this is like foreplay to his demise.
Exactly. Take him down. Yeah. Oh my God. Chapter 9.
Chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Okay, wait, I have to find my synopsis. Okay. Xaden and Violet take to the mat in a heated fight. While Violet pulls out all her moves, Xaden breezes through, stopping her at every turn, almost as though he is toying with her. To Violet's surprise, he takes the opportunity to teach her a few things instead of kill her. The chapter ends with Dane and Violet having yet another argument of whether or not she should stay.
Excellent.
I loved this chapter. I just want to reread this chapter.
Well, you will have reread this chapter
for
some bonus content that's going to come out
later this week.
Yes, exactly. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the pre-chapter blurb for this chapter is Violet Sorrengail's personal addendum to the Book of Brennan, and it's simply, I will not die today.
Loved it.
Love it.
It's so good.
Concise, to the point.
I like that she's like adding to the journal because like Mira added a little passage at the beginning, and it's like she's adding. I don't know who she would like pass it on to, but it just like feels like a nice little like sibling effort now.
Yeah. So okay, for this chapter, you know how they say that like fear and arousal are very closely linked?
Like a knife to the throat.
Yes. Nothing makes that more evident than how Violet describes Xaden approaching the sparring mat.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And all I have to say is stupid Dane the Pain. A little out of her league. Like, shut up.
I know.
Shut up.
I know. And it's all under the guise of like, I'm just trying to protect her. But it's like, dude, she doesn't need your protection.
Wait until something actually bad is happening. Like, he's just walking towards her. Like, nothing actually bad has happened yet.
But then part of me was like, Dane, are you jealous?
Of course he's jealous. Of course he's jealous. The same reason why Violet's jealous of Imogen.
Yeah, fair.
But I love how Xaden repeatedly puts Dane in his place. I find it's just such an alpha move, and again, like, think what you want about it, but I love it.
Yeah. So as he's approaching, like, obviously a lot of thoughts are going through Violet's mind, and she says a sentence that, like, she starts it off by saying, as if my body knows the truth about my mind, the truth my mind hasn't accepted yet.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking, I was like, oh, so she does know she's attracted to Xaden. But then she ends the sentence with talking about how he might kill her.
I was just like, fear and arousal.
I know, but I was just like, no, girl, that's not what you're feeling right now.
Yeah. Well, it takes her a long time to admit her feelings for him.
Yeah, that's fine. I like a slow burn. I like the tension.
I mean, I hate it, but I like it.
Well, I like living in the tension, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, you'll be living in it for a long time in this book, let me tell you.
Don't sound too excited.
So this is happening. Her internal monologue is going, and I just like, again, I can't take it. Like right before she flings a dagger at him, she literally cannot help herself. She has to describe him in the most sensual ways possible. He crosses his arms over his ridiculously well-sculpted chest. Like, come on!
I know.
Just admit your feelings, okay?
I know. I feel like, to be honest, my notes were very little because I was enjoying reading it so much.
Yeah, this sparring scene got me all...
But when he calls her violence...
Yes. What do you think about that?
I love it.
Okay, some people think it's really cringe. I love it too.
I love it. My heart, like, jumped. Like, I was just like, oh,
I love a
her violence.
Yeah.
Like, I love it because, like, she is strong.
Yeah.
You know? Like, she has a sass to her. She has an edge to her. And no one has seen that in her, and he does. Like, you know? Like,
yeah.
I'm all for that.
Me too. And first of all, I love a nickname. Second of all, I love that it's a nickname that goes to show how well he sees her.
Yeah.
Kind of like you were saying before. Yeah. So yeah, I'm here for it. Some people literally cannot cope with the fact that he calls her violence.
That's fine. It's not for everyone.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It works for me. Like, I was like, yes, please call her that. But the whole fight is just, it's so good.
Yeah, I love that he's like kind of I mean, I don't love that he's humiliating her, but he's doing it to teach her a lesson.
Yeah.
Because he clearly wants her to improve her skills.
Yeah.
Clearly, her getting better is his goal. But then you're like, okay, but why? Like, these mixed messages this guy's giving us. Like,
I know. I think he's confused too, but like, I also wrote that. I was like, he teaches her, like, unlike Dane. Like, Dane is just trying to push
wrap her in
out.
bubble wrap.
Yeah, he's just like, you're too weak for this. You can't handle this. You need to leave.
Yeah.
And he's shoving her out the door. Whereas Xaden obviously sees something in her and is like, she's teachable. I could show her and she can do this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like, just the fact that he believes in her is so attractive.
You love that.
I love it so much. And it's the same thing with, spoiler, ACOTAR, the Tamlin Reese thing. Like,
you're right.
Though Tamlin did offer to, like, teach her to read or whatever, it was, like, very with resentment and stuff. And, like, he wants to wrap Feyre in bubble wrap and protect her and keep her cooped up. Whereas, like, Reese is like, no, I need to teach you to fight. I need to teach you to read. You need to be able to survive in this world, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Yeah. Which is, again, just so attractive.
Yeah.
So it's the same storyline.
Absolutely. Okay, so when he has her flat on the mat, and his knee is on her back, and he whispers in her ear, like, he knows that she's been taking out her opponents in the matches, I'm like, whew,
yeah,
that is so hot. And clearly he's been really watching her, paying attention, and, you know, much more than Dane the Pain has. Yeah. Like, come
on. And she uses the line, his eyes darken.
Yes.
Which is, like, well loved on Book Talk.
Yes.
Have you seen the video of the guy who does, like, a perfect example of it?
No.
Okay, I'm sure to.
Yeah, you have to show it to me. But then Violet is all of us, which goes, you are not attracted to toxic men.
Oh my God, that made me laugh so much.
It's like, we are, as long as they are fictional.
Yes. Toxicity is okay in the book. But also at the same time, like, when she said that, it made me laugh, but I was like, what makes him toxic? At this point, we don't really know.
The fact that she thinks he wants to kill her. They're mortal enemies.
I guess, but, like, that's not toxic. Like, that's just what she...
I mean...
Like,
you would have a relationship with someone who wants to kill you?
Well, okay, but she doesn't know. I don't know. I just felt like I haven't seen the red flags from him. So I was like, what makes him a toxic man? Like,
that's very interesting that you say that.
Okay.
No, it's just because I see the red flags, and usually we're...
just the fact that, like, he's her mortal enemy.
Yeah.
But, like, time and time again, he has had the opportunity to kill her, and he has demonstrated that he doesn't really seem to be interested in killing her.
But that could all be a ploy to make her, to lull her into a false sense of security.
Absolutely. But there hasn't actually been a red flag that he wants to kill her, is what I'm saying.
He said it!
When did he say it? Dane said he said it. I don't believe Dane for a second.
Okay, good point.
Thank you.
Okay, I give that to you. I give that to you.
Thank you. Oh, anyway, sorry. I got really heated. I love that they now also, like, they, like, whispered to each other, and they kind of both have each other's secrets, because he calls her out on poisoning her enemy, or her enemies, her opponents.
Yeah.
So, like, he figured it out.
Yeah.
And he calls her out on it in secret. And now she is holding the secret that he has illegal gatherings, and he is holding the secret that she's poisoning her opponents. Mm-hmm. So they kind of, like...
It's mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just love that. I'm like, oh, they have a little bond now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Xaden is teaching her where to strike, and we get this little nugget about Violet. All the moves that he's teaching her are fatal, and she has been actually avoiding fatally striking anyone, especially even with the poisons. She's been very careful.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't want to kill anyone.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, it's very common in their quadrant for that to happen.
Absolutely.
But she's like,
we've seen with Jack Barlow,
Yeah.
as we've seen.
And again, it's like she's not playing by the general rules. She's playing by her rules. And,
Absolutely.
like, in her rule book, it's like, I'm not going to kill anyone if I could avoid it, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, that whole scene, like, the tension is really hot. But the fact that he's, like, literally holding a dagger, he's trusting her to the point that he's holding a dagger to his own back, being like, if you strike me right here, you'll kill me.
Yeah.
Like, just the tension.
Yeah.
And
Also, so they're having this freaking hot, like, sparring match. And I always have to remind myself, they're in a room full of people. Like, there are so many people watching this happen.
Imagine watching that. I would feel uncomfortable and look away. Like, I'd be like,
no,
this is
I would not
too
be
much.
able to. No, like, it's like watching a car crash.
No, I can't watch, like, on TV, in books and stuff, like, a really romantic situation is fine. But in real life, like, I feel so awkward watching people do it.
Well, okay, fine. But, like, watching people do what? like,
I know, that sounded really wrong. Reminder, I do work in television, but...
okay, fair enough.
But it's just, like, intimate moments. I don't work in adult stuff. It's all fake, don't worry. But I have had to watch actors be intimate, and it's really awkward. And I just, like, stare at the floor like, I don't like this.
Yeah. I guess, like, I'm thinking more in the sense where this is a moment that toes the line between... like sexy and scary.
Yeah.
So I feel like as an observer, you couldn't look away because
I guess.
it could go from sexy to scary really fast.
I guess. But I also wonder, like, how much, I mean, Dane probably sees it, but, like, how much do the audience see
of their chemistry?
Of the chemistry. Like, how obvious is it? I feel
Sounds like it's undeniable.
I know. I feel like it's pretty strong, so there's no way. But I feel like, I don't know, like, as a student watching that, I'd be like, oh, where do I look? Like, like, should we all leave now? But that's just me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So at the end, he's, like, removed all her daggers or whatever, except for the last one. He sheathes it for her again, which seems to be his move. And let me tell you, it works for me every time.
Same.
Every time.
Same.
Yeah. He could sheath daggers anytime.
Oh, yes. You fictional man.
Yeah. And then he walks...
I'm a happily married woman. For anyone listening.
We both are. But and then Zayden walks away. But as he walks away, he, like, calls out Dane, saying, like, she could use more instruction. And I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Zayden. Put it in his face.
Yeah, absolutely.
In front of everyone.
Again, it's such an alpha move. Like, you're her friend, and you could, like, I had to step in and teach her.
Yeah.
Where, like, what have you been doing all this time?
He just, like, oozes confidence, which is, I guess...
And competence.
I
think competence is almost, if not equally... as attractive as confidence.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we are in the next scene. So we're in Dane's room. Oh, so we're at that point.
Well, now I am. I'm just like, again, okay. I mean, I'm reading with a more critical lens. And honestly, what is wrong with what's wrong with me? I don't understand how it took me to this point to be like, okay.
Yeah. It's okay. It took you 100 pages. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we're in Dane's room, and Dane is massaging Violet. So it's, like, again, setting them up to have this, like, kind of cute,
friends to lovers
hot moment. But of course he ruins it.
Okay, but hold on, Elyse, because I can tell you something. Let me tell you something, or let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. I've had many guy friends in my life, and even before I was in a relationship, I would never, ever have been shirtless on a bed getting massaged by one of these friends. Like, even a childhood friend.
I know.
Like, they're...
Like, no.
Like, I'm friends with these two siblings. Our moms are best friends. I've literally known them since I was in preschool.
Yeah.
I would never, ever have the guy of the siblings give me any massage, but especially not a shirtless massage on his bed. Yeah.
Like, no, I know.
No.
I agree. I mean, but at this point, I guess, like, they do want each other, but, like, it hasn't really been established yet. I don't know. It was a lot.
But I feel like that's 0 to 100. That's very intimate.
It's very intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. No.
Like, she's getting a rub down. This
I know.
is spicy.
I know.
Spicy.
So I'm like, I cosplay, right? So I go to Comic-Cons and stuff. And there's often like a massage booth. Like there's a massage company there because there's a bunch of booths, there's a bunch of vendors and stuff.
Right.
And there's often a massage company and people are on this chair getting massaged. Not
in front of everyone.
Not shirtless or anything, but they are getting a back massage in front of like a ton of, like hundreds of people walking by. And last time we were walking by, I was just like, I don't understand how they do it. Like it's such an intimate thing.
Yeah.
That like, even, I don't get a lot of massages, but I always feel nervous before because I'm like, I don't know this person and they're going to be touching me. And like,
Yeah, but you don't like to be touched.
I guess I am specific about touching. Yeah. But like,
because I'm like, I cannot wait.
Oh, okay.
I'm counting down the
so
hours.
Nervous. Yeah.
No, but I will like say I've never had a massage from a man. So
I did once and I was freaking out.
Really?
Because, anyway, I got married kind of the tail end of COVID, so there were still a lot of restrictions and stuff. So we kind of didn't want to do a big honeymoon. We did a mini one. So we did like a weekend kind of a couple days getaway thing. And one of the things we did was go to a spa. And we specifically requested, like, Scott wanted a man to massage him because he's a big dude. And he's like, I need a big dude massaging me. So I was like, that's fair. And I wanted a woman because I felt weird about a man. And whatever happened, they screwed up and they switched the roles.
Oh, no.
So I had this, like, big dude come to massage me. And I was like, freaking out. And, like, internally, I was like, they fucked up. But Scott was already gone and started his massage. So
yeah,
it was
like you could get up
I can't
and be
switch. I was like, oh, maybe there wasn't a man available. He got a woman. That's fine. Like, I don't care. But it was the fact that then, like, 10 minutes later, a man approached me and he was like, oh, I'm going to massage you. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was great. It was amazing. And, it was perfect. It was everything I needed. But the leading up to it, I was freaking out. And I know it's his job.
Yeah.
But it still, internally, I was just like, ah.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me. Do you listen to Armchair Expert?
I've listened to only select episodes.
Oh, okay. So Monica talks about this massage guy in Paris who apparently gives like the craziest massages that are like a life-altering experience.
Oh, really?
And that it's sensual.
Okay.
But not sexual.
Okay.
And
I mean, it's an intimate experience, whether you like it or not, but...
Yeah. Anyway, it made me think of that.
That's funny.
Like, totally random tangent.
That's really funny. Anyway, back to the massaging. Yes, it was, like, weirdly intimate for this to be happening. For her to be shirtless and only have a bandage over her breasts. Like...
Yeah.
What?
But
what
during this sensual massage, who are they talking about?
I know. I know. Oh.
They can't get away from him. So they talk about, in case our listeners have not inferred, they're talking about Xaden and his loyalty to Navarre. Mm-hmm. And this is actually something that I missed on my first read and my reread. But on this read, I've noticed that talking about dragon bonds is against the rules. Mm-hmm. So again, this is a rule that Dane feels comfortable breaking.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
he's very selective with his rule breaking.
As far as we know, he's broken 2 rules. Mm-hmm. The one with Amber and now this one.
Yeah.
But he's very particular about other rules. So it's like I said, he's kind of picking and choosing the rules that he wishes to abide by.
That's a very good point.
Did you? So Dane
clearly not.
Yeah. Okay. So in this conversation about dragons and dragon bonds, Dane reveals that his dragon Kath is always in his head.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about that?
I know. I did make a note of it. I don't know why I didn't say anything. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that a dragon bond meant constantly having a link to your dragon and your dragon is constantly in your mind. Like, I didn't realize that it ran that deep. I can't imagine having a second mind in your head.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I'm curious to see, like, more about that because, yeah, that's a lot. Like, to have another creature's mind in your head constantly.
Yeah, because then you're affected by their life and they're affected by your life.
Yeah, because you would assume that the reverse is true, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have enough thoughts of my own. I do not need other voices in there. Yeah, and then, so then Dane reveals that he spoke to General Markham about the threats that Violet's been getting from other students. And, like, I just wrote, like, what the hell? Like, making her seem weak, undermining her, going behind her back. Like, the rage level was just, like, cranked to 11. Like, I was like, I'm done. Like, what? Anyway.
But at least, finally, Violet is fighting back.
Yes.
I hate her negative self-talk because she's saying that if Dane, of all people, doesn't believe in her and he knows her best, then, you know, maybe there's some truth to how he feels and what he's saying. But I love that they're finally having it out.
I know.
It was very necessary.
I know.
And
while she's shirtless, poor girl. Trying to struggle and put her clothes back on.
Didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
But again, here, Dane highlights that he won't be allowed, quote unquote, to help or save her during threshing. But it's funny, you know, so he's okay with telling her about his bond with the dragon. He's okay with putting the P in the V with someone who's a year older than him. But now his literal best friend is potentially, in this hypothetical situation, in danger, and he's not allowed to help her. Like, dude.
I know. What the hell?
I don't know.
Because in that point, like, people will be watching. And, like, his rule breaking.
Yeah, I guess we don't know the logistics of threshing.
Yeah.
That, yes, you're possibly
but
right.
But still, no, I agree. Like, it's like, why is that where you're drawing the line? And also, you know threshing is coming. Why haven't you just offered to help her through it? You know what it is. Yeah. You know how it goes. Yeah. You know what people do during threshing. Like, you've witnessed it and lived it. Like, help her.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of time wasted in all of this. Like, the people who are helping her, Xaden, Rhiannon, Riddick, like, strangers.
Yeah.
Her best friend has done absolutely nothing.
Like, what kind of friend?
Agreed. So, you know what does actually make me happy, though, in all of this? It's that despite everyone around her going on about how weak she is, with the exception of Professor De Vera, Professor Kaori, Xaden, and Rhiannon, you know, like, everyone is going on and on about how dangerous the situation is and how, you know, all the odds are stacked against her, blah, 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 blah. There's that little voice inside her head that's like, maybe you can do it. Yeah. And, you know, that voice is starting to get louder and louder. And she's starting to believe that. And
yeah. I love that.
I love that.
I love that too. There is, like, for, like, half a second, though, I did feel bad for Dane when he was talking about the, like, we'll have to watch, like, I'm going to have to watch you die, basically. Yeah. Because, like, I was like, you know what, like, he does care about her. He doesn't want to see her die. Yeah. And I think his way of caring is wrong, and he doesn't understand caring. Yeah. But I think to him, he does really care about her. Yeah. So, like, for half a second, I was like, aw. But then he says, if you won't do it for yourself, do it for me.
So manipulative.
Again, it's the second time he says that. It's the second time he pulls that card, and I'm like, didn't work the first time, buddy. Let it go. Yeah. Anyway, despite the opportunity being brought to her again, she says she doesn't want to take it. She finally, like you're saying,
well,
like,
her heart softens because she sees Dane's distress.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if she does listen to him and indulge in his request, that she will always resent him for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Which is very short-sighted of him.
Yeah. Well, it's not very smart. No. Anyway, so, and that concludes the chapter.
Yeah, let's do some awards.
Let's do some awards. So, romance award. So less romantic, but more just like what I thought it was a sign of love. She could use a little less protection and a little more instruction.
Same.
When same says that to Dane.
I agree.
Because it's like, yeah, that's like, again, a sign of love.
I completely agree. I put the same as most romantic line.
Yeah. Just like seeing what's best for someone and wanting that for them and helping them towards that is so lovely. You know? Yeah. So funniest. Oh, when Violet says, "You're not attracted to toxic men," I remind myself, and yet here I am getting all attracted. We feel you, girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I put, "You gonna prance or are you gonna strike?"
Oh, yes.
When he's taunting her.
Yeah. I loved his taunts. Like, just the way he toyed with her the whole time is so good. Yeah. Spicy. Yep. I swallow, refusing to think of other things that are good, a good fit at this angle. Talking about Xaden being
on top of her. Yeah. I was, honestly, if you want to ask me my spiciest line, I would just read the entire sparring scene.
I know.
Especially the bit where he sheathes her daggers. Like, oof.
It was heated.
Yeah. I could not.
You couldn't pick.
I couldn't pick.
It was hard to pick. There was too many options.
Yeah, but that was a good phrase.
Yeah.
Good little sentence right there.
This week, we actually decided that we're going to do a bonus episode.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know or didn't know, because I didn't know until Myriam told me, with the release of Iron Flame, there was a new edition released of Fourth Wing, and in this edition, there were 2 bonus chapters, which are from Xanon's perspective. And one of those bonus chapters is chapter 9.
The sparring chapter.
The sparring chapter. So we decided that we are going to read it and release a bonus episode of our thoughts on that chapter later this week.
Yeah. Caveat. If you have not finished Fourth Wing, do not read this chapter. Do yourself a favor, because I feel really, really bad for there are spoilers in it. So
there are spoilers, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, for next week, please read chapters 10, 11, and 12. That's what we're going to be covering for episode 4. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate this podcast and leave a review. It'll help other people find us. You can follow us on Instagram at bookboundpod and TikTok at Book Bound Besties. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please email us at bookboundbesties@gmail.com.
Let's get to reading.